Before we begin, please imagine the bell notification is on and you're subscribed to Huna Stories. I told my father over the phone. There is no poetic way to say that sentence. It was a Tuesday. The sky outside my kitchen window was aggressively ordinary. I remember because the normality offended me. They're gone, I said. I don't remember breathing between the words. There was a pause, not the kind filled with shock, the kind filled with calculation. Then my father answered, steady and composed. Today is your sister's birthday. We can't come. No anger, no apology, just logistics. In the silence that followed, something shifted. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just a quiet internal reorganization, like furniture being moved in a dark room. The funeral was 3 days later. People I barely knew showed up. Colleagues of my husband, parents from my children's school. My neighbor, who once complained about our dog, stood in the rain, holding an umbrella over me without speaking. 2 seats in the second row remained empty. I kept looking at them anyway. I didn't cry the way I expected to. I functioned, signed papers, approved burial details, nodded when people spoke. Grief, I learned, can feel administrative. Afterward, my phone buzzed. Photos, pink balloons, a cake with glittering numbers, my sister smiling in front of a banner that read, "Celebrate." No caption about the funeral, no acknowledgement. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I muted the family chat. That was the first boundary I ever set without announcing it. The weeks that followed were not cinematic. There were no breakdowns on kitchen floors. There was paperwork, insurance, bank meetings, the dissolution of a future I had memorized. My husband had owned a mid-sized consulting firm. We had always intended to grow it slowly, thoughtfully. He used to joke that he'd retire early and embarrass our children at their graduations. Instead, I was sitting across from his business partner, learning the mechanics of succession clauses. Grief rearranged itself into focus. I discovered things I hadn't paid attention to before. The numbers, the contracts, the leverage. I also discovered something else. My parents had always assumed I was the fragile one, the emotional one, the one who would come back home when things got hard. 6 months passed without a single visit from them. A few messages, a short call where my mother said, "We didn't know what to say." I replied, "You could have come." She didn't answer. Therapy helped, but not in the way people expect. It didn't make me softer, it made me clearer. I stopped trying to extract comfort from people who had already shown me their capacity. I focused on the company, not to distract myself, but because it was something I could still influence. I worked with our attorney, reviewed the estate plan, expanded a charitable clause my husband had once drafted casually, a scholarship in our children's names. I turned it into a foundation, not a grand one, just structured, documented, transparent. I transferred controlling shares into a trust governed by a board. I stepped into the role of managing director, quietly, competently. No one in my family asked about the business. They assumed, I think, that I was drowning. Then the article was published. A regional business journal ran a piece titled "Widowed Executive Establishes Memorial Foundation, Declines Family Mediation Over Estate." I hadn't asked for publicity, but foundations require transparency. The reporter framed it as resilience. I didn't correct him. By the end of that day, my phone was vibrating nonstop. My father's name appeared 5 times, then my mother's, then my sister's. When I finally answered, my father's voice sounded unfamiliar. "Why are we finding out from a newspaper that you've structured everything legally?" he asked. "Because you didn't come when I called," I replied. Silence. He cleared his throat. "We should meet. This shouldn't be handled publicly." It wasn't public. It was documented. We scheduled a meeting, not at their house, not at mine, at my attorney's office. The conference room was neutral. Glass walls, long wooden table, water pitchers placed deliberately in the center. My attorney sat to my right, calm, prepared. My parents arrived 10 minutes early. They looked older. My father tried to smile when he saw me. It didn't reach his eyes. We exchanged minimal pleasantries. Then the attorney began, outlining the trust structure. Voting rights, irrevocable clauses, distribution restrictions. My father interrupted halfway through. So you're saying the family has no input? My attorney answered evenly. The board governs the foundation. He gestured toward me, serves as managing director. Decisions require board approval. My mother leaned forward. Were your parents? I met her gaze. Yes, there was a time when that sentence would have softened me. Now it simply described biology. We assumed, my father continued carefully, that we would be involved. In what way? I asked. He hesitated. There it was, the absence of specifics, the expectation without articulation. Financial matters should stay within the family, he said finally. They are, I replied. My husband and children were my family. The room didn't explode. No one shouted, no one wept. The authority in that space wasn't emotional, it was structural. Documented signatures, legal boundaries, a quiet finality. For the first time in my life, my father had nothing to override. He tried a different angle. We didn't realize you felt abandoned. I considered that. I don't feel abandoned anymore, I said. I adjusted. That seemed to land harder than anger would have. They asked if we could start fresh, if we could move forward, if I would reconsider shared trusteeship. I declined. Not dramatically, not with bitterness, just a steady no. The foundation board had already voted, the governance documents were filed. My decision was not reactive, it was complete. When the meeting ended, my mother reached for my hand. I let her touch it briefly. There was no hatred in me, just outside the building, the air felt sharp and clean. I stood there for a moment before walking to my car. There was no triumph, no surge of victory, only a strange steadiness. Grief had taken everything loud from me, the future, the noise, the illusion that love automatically translates into loyalty. What remained was precision. That evening, the family group chat went silent. No one sent photos, no one sent updates. They now understood something they hadn't before. Access to me was no longer automatic. It required permission, and permission was no longer something I gave out of habit. I still miss my husband, my children. That doesn't fade. It changes shape. But I don't miss chasing acknowledgement from people who weighed my loss against a birthday cake. 6 months ago, I called in pieces. Today, I don't call at all. Not because I'm angry,